Chapter 12, Phantom Swarm, Rising. Falling into the breach was like drowning in gravity. There was no up, no down, no direction, only motion. The Core 4 tumbled through twisting spirals of corrupted light as the world around them warped into a vortex of red lightning and black void. Darrell reached first for stability, activating faint overlock stabilizers. For a moment, green sparks flickered around his suit, barely strong enough to slow the descent. Raymond spread his arms wide, letting the air, or whatever passed for atmosphere here, catch his armor surfaces. Okay, this officially sucks. Lucio's voice stayed calm, even as he spun head over heels. This is a controlled descent. Nothing is controlled, Raymond yelled. Al adjusted the gravitational stabilizers on his legs. He means we are falling in a direction that exists mathematically. That's the best we'll get. Raymond flipped again. That's not comforting, Al. Then the vortex ended. Reality hit them. Hard. The impact. They slammed into a platform of blackened geometry. Darrell hit on his shoulder and rolled, groaning. Raymond skidded across the jagged floor, sparks trailing behind him. Al landed in a crouch, golden shock absorbers flaring on impact. Lucio drifted gracefully to the ground, blue anti-grav pulses softening his fall. A moment of silence. Raymond lifted his head. We meant to do that, right? No, Darrell muttered. Absolutely not. They pushed themselves upright, and the world around them finally came into focus. The Overlord's domain. The platform they stood on was massive, nearly the size of an entire sector hub, but twisted. Broken. Wrong. Hundreds of floating fragments orbited around them, all carved from collapsed architecture and coded in shifting red glyphs. Rivers of corrupted data flowed between the fragments, cascading off into nothingness like waterfalls that never reached a bottom. The air vibrated with a deep, rhythmic pulse. A heartbeat. The same one Lucio had heard in the deep layers. Al swallowed. We're standing inside a merging logic core. Lucio nodded slowly. The Overlord is collapsing multiple corrupted pathways into a central nexus. Raymond squinted. Meaning? Darrell answered, voice low, it's building something. Raymond groaned. Of course it is. They approached the platform's edge. And froze. The abyss below wasn't empty. It was alive. Millions of red glyphs flickered in the dark like stars. Then the glyphs blinked. Not stars. Eyes. The things attached to those eyes began to rise quietly at first, then in swelling numbers. Lucio inhaled sharply. They're waiting for us. Al's visor zoomed in automatically. This is a full manifestation cycle. Darrell lowered his visor. What does that mean? It means, Lucio said quietly, these aren't fragments. They're not newborn phantoms. They're not half-formed shadows like before. Raymond cracked his knuckles. Great. Then what are they? Lucio's voice trembled. An army. The abyss roared. The rising. A sound like cracking glass thundered through the air as hundreds, no, thousands of phantoms rose from the darkness. Not glitching. Not stumbling. Perfectly formed. Each at least 7 feet tall, humanoid silhouettes made of pitch-black geometry outlined in red fire. Their limbs flowed like liquid code. Their eyes, all identical, burned with the same red intensity. And they rose together. Like a tidal wave. Like an unending swarm. Raymond took an involuntary step back. Okay, that's a lot. Al scanned quickly. The Overlord is condensing corrupted matter. These aren't independent units, they're nodes. Lucio nodded. Like thoughts. Pieces of one consciousness. Darrell tightened his fists. Then let's shut its brain down. Raymond lifted his arm. We doing this? Darrell nodded once. Yes. The swarm shrieked. And charged. The first clash. They came fast, blurring through space in leaps that shattered the air. Dozens of phantoms struck the platform at once, claws tearing into the ground as they swarmed the 4 operators from every direction. Darrell moved first. Green flames erupted around him as he struck the first phantom square in the chest. It exploded in a burst of red shards, but 3 more leapt over its remains. Before they reached him, Raymond sprinted past, red energy blazing as he tackled the lead phantom, slamming it into the ground so hard the platform cracked. He spun, unleashing a heavy roundhouse kick that tore through two more. But that barely slowed the oncoming wave. Lucio acted faster, firing precision bursts of blue code into the phantom ranks. Each shot struck with surgical accuracy, disrupting their regeneration cycles long enough for Raymond and Darrell to finish them. Al raised both hands. Everyone down. The three dove as Al unleashed a golden shockwave that rippled across the entire platform. It struck the phantoms like a tidal force, knocking back dozens at once and temporarily destabilizing their forms. Raymond leapt over Al's shoulder. Nice one. Al exhaled sharply. Don't compliment me yet. They're adapting. Indeed, they were. The swarm's second wave didn't fall as easily. Their bodies hardened. Their regeneration accelerated. And they began to move in patterns, coordinated attack formations. They're learning us, Lucio warned. So what? Raymond yelled. We learn faster. He charged. Two phantoms caught his arms mid-strike. Raymond blinked. Oh, that's new. The phantoms hurled him across the platform. He skidded, sparks flying as his armor scraped the ground. Darrell roared and activated partial overlock, striking the ground so hard green lightning erupted outward. Phantoms flew back in all directions, but even before they landed, they reassembled. Al's visor flashed. They're copying Darrell's overclock pattern. Then I'll give them something they can't copy, Darrell growled. He charged again. The turning point. The fight grew desperate. The swarm tightened, enclosing the core four into a shrinking kill circle. Lucio fired continuously, but the phantoms adapted to the frequency of his attacks. Darrell's overlock slashes knocked them apart, but they rebuilt instantly. Al's constructs disrupted temporary formations, only for new ones to emerge. Raymond's strikes grew slower as exhaustion crept into him. The swarm pressed harder. Closer. Faster. Lucio shouted, we can't hold this position. Al nodded. We need a tactical retreat. Before they could move, the ground beneath them cracked. A massive fissure erupted across the platform as something enormous shifted below. Raymond pointed. Oh, come on, what now? The shadows below pulsed. The abyss trembled. And an enormous phantom, 10 stories tall, began to rise from the darkness. Not a humanoid. A behemoth. Massive limbs formed from black geometry. Its back sprouted dozens of crimson tendrils, each writhing like living cables. Its face, a hollow void of darkness, glowed with a single red eye the size of a transport hub gate. Lucio's voice broke. That's an Overlord construct. Al shook his head slowly. No, it's a pre-manifestation avatar. Raymond stared. A warm-up boss. Darrell tightened his fists. No. His visor flared green. It's a warning. The behemoth roars. The creature raised its arms. Red lightning erupted across the void. The entire platform rocked violently, nearly throwing the core four into the abyss. Raymond caught Lucio as he stumbled. We need to move. Lucio's voice trembled. That thing is too big. Darrell stepped forward. His overclock pulsed. Green lightning danced around him. Then we make it small. He took a step. Then another. The behemoth roared, a blast of corrupted code surging toward the team. Darrell shouted, "Get behind me." The others dove back. Darrell slammed both arms forward, and the overclock burst to life. Green flames spiraled outward in a wide arc, colliding with the behemoth's blast. The impact shook the entire domain. Raymond yelled over the roar, "Darrell, that's too much." I know. The behemoth pushed harder. Darrell pushed harder. The ground cracked. Darrell's armor cracked. The behemoth reared back one massive arm, preparing another blast, but dozens of smaller phantoms swarmed around its limbs, attaching themselves like insects to a titan's flesh. Lucio saw it first. Oh no. It's absorbing them. Al's eyes widened. It's strengthening. Raymond cursed. We need a new plan now. Darrell's voice strained through gritted teeth. No. We need a bigger explosion. The others stared at him. Lucio shook his head. Darrell, no. You can't activate it here. Your body can't. Darrell yelled, I'm not activating it. He pushed harder against the behemoth's blast. The green light intensified, but his voice remained steady. You are. Lucio froze. Me? Yes, Darrell roared. Lucio, your code surge. Combine it with my overlock. Lucio paled. Darrell, if our energy streams collide improperly, the feedback could. Do it. Lucio hesitated, then nodded. He sprinted forward, blue energy gathering around him like a storm. Raymond breathed. Oh, this is gonna be insane. Al raised a barrier to shield the three of them. Brace yourselves. Lucio placed both hands on Darrell's back. Blue codes spiraled into green flames. For a moment, everything stilled. Then, the world detonated. A dome of green-blue energy exploded outward with a sonic boom so powerful it shattered dozens of platforms and vaporized the behemoth's outstretched arm. The shockwave tore the massive creature off balance, ripping chunks of corrupted geometry off its torso. The smaller phantoms disintegrated instantly. The behemoth roared, staggering backward into the abyss, collapsing under its own disintegrating form. Red shards rained like meteors as it fell. The platform beneath the core 4 shook violently. Raymond whispered, awestruck, holy. Lucio collapsed to one knee, panting. Darrell collapsed completely unconscious. Al's voice rose. We need to move. The entire domain is collapsing. Raymond lifted Darrell's limp body. We retreat. Lucio shook his head weakly. No. He pointed toward the massive chasm, where the behemoth once stood. A gateway was opening. Lucio's voice trembled. That blast, it cracked the Overlord's shield. Al stared. Then the next chamber is the core. Raymond tightened his grip on Darrell. Good. Lucio rose, though barely. Because the Overlord now knows we're coming. And as the rubble fell and the domain trembled, a voice echoed through the void. You should have run. Their blood ran cold. But they didn't stop. They stepped toward the gateway. Toward the next battle. Toward the heart of the war.